I mean, send the link in a All right, so I hope you guys can hear me now. I think the audio is working out. I don't know what happened. I tested it out, but it should work now. Let's see here if it actually does work. Switch accounts. Let me know if you can hear me now. Let me know if you can. Okay. Let me send. Okay. Share. All right. Let me know if you can hear me now. All right. Perfect. 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 Whew. Okay, that took a minute. I don't know why it was acting that way, but one of those things. All right. So, like I was stating earlier, there's a lot of people out there who want to join the IT industry. Totally understand, right? You want to, get into IT. I have a couple of people that would text me and say, "Hey, I want to get into the IT industry, but I don't want to do anything technical." Right? I don't want to do anything technical. And I totally get it, right? Not a lot of people want to do technical stuff when it comes into the IT field. Sorry, I have to resend all these links to other people again because I had to restart all this all over again. I am really, really sorry. I don't know what happened. But let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here. I think it should be working now. I think it should be working now. I am never using a MacBook again. Anyways, so like I was saying, sometimes it's very difficult for people to get into the IT industry. And I totally understand, right? I was talking to one of my friends the last time, and then I told him that if you are not able to get into the IT industry in the year, let's say 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021, it becomes very difficult for you to get in now. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why I say that. Lord, I have to keep sending this to other people. I am so sorry. I am so, so sorry. I am so sorry. Okay. Hopefully this works now. Hopefully this works now. Okay. Guys, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Please let me know if you can hear me before I start. I do not want to start and then there's an audio issue. Please let me know if you can hear me. I don't want to experience this issue again. So please let me know if you can hear me. Please put in the chat if you can hear me. Please put in the chat if you can hear me. Please put it in the chat if you can hear me. If you cannot hear me, please let me know. Please, 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 please let me know. Okay, perfect. All right. So like I stated earlier before my sound went bad, I am going to talk about my career, how I started in the IT industry, where I'm at right now. And then, perfect. Thank you so much. How I started in the IT career, in my IT career, and then I'm going to, pick it up from there. And then I have a friend that's actually going to join us very soon. And he's going to talk about the non-technical part of IT, what he does in his role. I'm not going to really give any introduction. Once he comes in, he can talk about himself, what he does, and that type of thing. And that if that's something that interests you, then he also does host some sort of boot camp, some IT boot camp that you can actually join as well. I'm not sure what the pricing is. He can talk about it when it gets there. But to start everything off, as most of you already know, my name is Albie. You can call me Albie. I'm on YouTube, like most of you would know. I started off my career at Best Buy, right? So when I started my career, and I'm only giving you this background about me because most people feel that normally it's kind of like magic. You start the IT career, you do some sort of boot camp, you jump into making six figures and you're done. So some people literally think that's how it is, but literally that's not how it is. You have to go through some hurdles to get to where you want to get to, whether you want to make six figures or whatever, right? But while I'm doing that, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you when it gets there. All right. So I started my career at Best Buy as a Geek Squad consultation agent. So when I started that career, what I was doing was I was doing most of the, the hardware, software stuff. So you have a client that would buy a computer that would come in and be like, hey, my computer is not working. Can you figure out what's going on? I'll be that guy. So I'll go into the computer, try to figure out if it's an OS system, whatever the issue is, right? I try to fix it out for the customer. And then doing that for a couple of years, I think about 4 years, I had my first breakthrough in actual IT. When I talk about actual IT, Best Buy, I see it to be a stepping stone to get to where you want to get to. So I remember when I first had my first interview, my boss, his name was Don Lee. His name was Don Lee. And the first question that he asked me was, what is IP address, right? That's it. He asked me, what is IP address? And I remember he was literally sipping on tea, literally like that. And he said, what is an IP address? And I knew what it was, but then I drew a blank. And I'm not sure why I drew a blank, but then I was like, sir, I know what an IP address is, but trust me, I don't remember. I told him, I don't remember. Like, I really do not remember. And he looked at me for about 5 to 10 seconds, and he was like, you hear back from me, right? And then about an hour or 2 hours later, I got an email stating that I've been given the job. I don't know if it was my time to get the job or not, but yeah, it has been history from then, like literally jumping from there to another field, going into GovTech, doing different things. But for me right now, in the career field that I'm in, I have a lot of people that's actually asking me a lot of questions because I've been in the data analytics field and I've been in the cybersecurity field, right? Those two umbrella. So I have a wealth of knowledge on the data analytics field and I have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the security aspect of things, okay? But I am in the technical side, which is where most people do not really want to fall under, because you hear a lot of people saying, hey, I want to get into IT, I want to get into cybersecurity, but I do not want to do anything technical. And sometimes I laugh before I answer, not to say that everything you do in IT is technical. No, it's not, right? Not all IT careers or not all cybersecurity careers require you to do some sort of technical stuff or coding, doing that programming stuff. No, you don't have to do all that. Not in all IT careers, right? But then the number one thing that I talk about when it comes to the IT umbrella is you have to understand the fundamentals. When I talk about you have to understand the fundamentals, meaning, let me give you an example. Say you are in the RMF field, right? The risk management framework, the GRC field, where you're doing third party, RMF, blah, blah, all those stuff. They give you what they call a system, right? And if you're an assessor, they will give you a system for you to assess that system. And as you're assessing that system, you don't have to be technical, but you have to have a general foundation understanding of what that system does. Am I making sense? If I'm making sense, let me know in the comment section. I can't hear you. Dorinda, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Dorinda, let me know if you can hear me now. Can you hear me now? Dorinda, let me know if you can hear me now. All right. So like I was saying, you have to have a general idea of that IT system that they've given to you. So let's say you're an assessor giving you Splunk, right? You're an assessor and your system that they gave you was Splunk, right? Perfect. And the system that they gave you was Splunk. So if you're going to be an assessor for that security system called Splunk, you have to understand what Splunk does. You have to know the ins and outs. You don't literally have to be the programmer, or you don't have to be the developer, but you have to have the foundation when it comes to Splunk. Because if you're assessing a system, you have to have a general idea of what that system does. So when people say that I do not want to do anything technical, yes, I'm not sure what they mean by non-technical or not technical. Maybe they're talking about the coding and all those good stuff. But like I said, I am going to bring my friend on board here, and he's going to literally tell you about what he does from start to finish. And so I don't bore you. Once he's done, if you have any questions whatsoever, you can bring up those questions, and we will be more than happy to answer those questions for you. So without further ado, I am going to bring my friend on board. He's going to, introduce himself. He's a big man. He's the rich man in the DMV area, right? He's going to introduce himself, say whatever he has to say, and then we'll pick it up from there. So without further ado, I am going to bring my brother on board on here. I call him Cuckoo, but I'm not sure if that's his actual name, but we all call him Cuckoo. So he's going to start off with everything. So let's get to it. All right, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up, Ali?
Hey, what's up? All right. So that's my big boss here, Cuckoo. He's the richest man in the DMV area. Just so you guys know. All right. So I just want you to introduce yourself. I don't want you to go anything into, what you do on a day-to-day, that type of stuff. just introduce yourself. You know, your name, Cuckoo. You know, where you started from in your IT journey. I think if I remember correctly, you were supposed to become a doctor, right?
Yeah. I was in the
And you
medical
switched
field
up.
and I
Okay,
switched.
okay.
Yeah,
I think most people would want to hear that career, you know, how you switched up everything. So
yeah.
let's start from, you know, your name, where you're from, and how you got to where you are right now.
Well, my name is Kwaku. Most people, I am called Cuckoo, but only close people call me Cuckoo. But um, yeah. So I was in the medical field. I started my career journey. Graduated from VCU. Then I went to medical school with EVMS. Then while I was in EVMS, for some reason, I decided to drop out and go on a business venture. That took off. Then gradually, I decided to look into IT. So I took one of these IT camp courses. Then I think it was about 2 months. It took me about 2 months for the course. And it was, I think, 7 days. No, I think it was 5 days a week. And after the course, I took 1 month to study for it, to study to make sure I have all the material. So from that, then I started applying for jobs. It took me about probably about 2 months after I completed class
Hmm.
to get an offer. I think I had about three offers, and I took two out of the three of the
Okay.
offers. And I think the first offer that I had was a third-party risk management lead for a company that I work with, and the other was a senior manager for third-party risk management. So
Okay.
that doesn't, in short terms, my career journey.
Okay. So you are in the third party, I would say third party vendor risk field, that, you know, that type of field,
Yeah, I'm in that
right?
space, vendor risk.
Okay,
Yep.
in that space. Okay. So most people would, you know, most of the time when people text me, they're like, hey, Albert, I want to get into the IT field, right? But I do not want to do anything technical, right? You know, that's what most people would say. I don't want to do anything technical. I'm not technical savvy, you know, that type of stuff. They always keep going on and on about that. And I keep, and correct me if I'm wrong, I keep telling them that you can get into the IT field, right? You don't have to be technical. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to know how SQL, C sharp, all that stuff. You don't have to know how it works. But you have to have the fundamental knowledge about whatever system that you're going to work on. So I'm not sure if
Absolutely.
it'll be classified as you being technical or not, but in your field, do you do anything technical?
No, I would say, when we say non-technical, I mean there are surface level technical terms that you need to know, but for the most
Mhm,
part, it's non-technical. I would say it's about 85% non-technical and 50% technical. And the technical is just terms that you
mhm.
need to familiarize yourself with, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. So when you took your, I think you said 1 month boot camp, was it 1 month?
It was almost 2 months boot camp.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you took your almost 2 months boot camp, right? Did
Mhm.
you get the job offers while you were in the boot camp or after you completed the boot camps?
No, I wasn't applying while I was in the boot camp. Some people do
Okay.
that, right? So when the boot camp is coming to completion, you see
Mhm.
some people start preparing and applying for jobs. I was not doing that. I waited when the boot camp was done. Then I also took 1 month or so to start studying for it to make sure I was ready, to go for interviews. So I took a month after the boot camp to study on my own.
Okay. And what year was this?
This was two, that's been, I think, almost 2 years now.
2 years now.
Yep.
So we're in 2023. So I'll say about 2020.
Yep.
And would you side with me when I say that in the year 2019, 2020, and I think the beginning of 2021, right?
Hmm.
I feel like, to me, I feel like that was the best time to get into the IT industry because most companies were doing that work from home type of thing, and these recruiters literally kept calling you every single day and begging you to take the jobs. But
I
now you
totally
don't
agree.
even, yeah, you don't even get one call in literally a month.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I totally agree. I think everybody, and not to cut you off, but I think
mhm,
everybody right now in this space is complaining about. I think everybody have seen this change. If
mhm,
you've been in the space for quite a while, you can see that now, even when you put an application, it takes longer, for you to
mhm,
get maybe a hit from a company or a recruiter. But as compared to the previous years, I mean, you have recruiters chasing you around. Hey, we have this job. No, but I don't think we are in that space anymore. I think now, because a lot of people are trying to jump in the IT space. I think number one,
Hmm.
that is that. Number two is also most jobs are going from strictly remote
Yeah.
to the hybrid status, and also that is also causing people not to really apply for jobs as well. I think that's my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, because the main reason why I said that was using myself as an example, right? I had literally about 5 recruiters calling me in a week, right? Literally they'll beg you, like, hey, Albert, I have this position. Then if you don't call back, they'll send you a voice note. They'll be like, do you want to take the job or not? Like they'll
Yeah, yeah,
literally
yeah, yeah,
tell
yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah.
like,
It's true.
take the job. I need
Yeah,
you to
it's
take
not
the
happening
job.
now.
But now it's you don't even get recruiters calling you as much. And I feel as though that stems from the fact that, okay, you have people from Microsoft, you have people from Google, you have people from Amazon who got laid off,
Yep,
and
yep. I do agree.
you're competing with somebody who built Amazon Prime, right? And you want to come in as a fresher, and you're competing with somebody who built Amazon Prime. So literally, he's gonna have more experience. He's
More,
gonna have
yep,
projects.
and more portfolio,
Literally,
resumes on point. Everything's probably going to be on point. I agree. I
exactly,
think
exactly.
when was it? Was it last year that Amazon laid people off? Was it last year?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Last
It
year,
was
yeah.
last year, right? And it was
Early this year too, they did.
I think it was like what 1,000 employees or so. It was 1,000 plus, right? Or
1,000 plus, yes, 1,000 plus.
yeah. So all
Mhm.
these people are also coming into the space. Exactly. So you're also competing with these, people coming from Amazon and Microsoft of that
Yeah,
nature. So yeah, I agree.
yeah. All right. So now I think it's the best time for us to dive a lot deeper into what you do, because we want to know what you do as a third-party vendor risk guy, from start to finish. We don't want you to give us any PIIs or whatever the case is. Just tell us, right, on a high level, what you do from start to finish. Because what I understand from the GRC, or let's say the RMF field, is the fact that they give them a system. If you're an assessor, you assess that system and you keep it going on and on from there, right? But then in the third-party world, can you give us literally what you do from start when you log in, or when you go in as a fresher, when you first joined the companies that you joined, right? What you did as a fresher from start to finish, literally till like you're in right now. We want to know what you do from start to finish. So if somebody's out there and want to get into that field, at the end when you're talking about the boot camps that you offer as well, they would get an understanding of what you're getting yourselves into, rather than coming in and not knowing anything about how the third party vendor risk works and anything of that sort. So please, before he does that, if you're watching me, please, I need you to subscribe. If you're not subscribed, we're giving you great information here. But please, let's go. Give us the start to finish. Let's go.
Yeah, so I will speak from because I'm in a lead role and managerial role, it'll probably be
Mhm.
different for the entry. So I'll speak from an entry perspective or an analyst
Okay.
perspective, because normally I do with lead and managerial role. So, but on
Okay.
a day-to-day basis, if you're a third-party risk analyst, I'm not going to get into more theoretical. I think people can relate it to more in a practical sense.
Yeah.
So when we
Yeah.
say third-party or vendor risk,
Hmm.
if you think about it, most companies out here are
Yeah.
outsourcing a sort of service.
Yeah.
Whether it's being you are bringing a caterer, whether it's bringing it being you are bringing a payroll service. A lot of people don't know this, but majority of your payroll from your
Yeah.
companies are being outsourced. If you take a look at your payroll, you see it says ADP. ADP is a company, meaning that your company went out there, spoke to ADP and say, "Hey, we want you to come on board and try to process the paychecks for our employees." So
Yeah.
that would be a third party, right? That third party is pretty much the vendor that is coming on board to provide services for your company.
Yeah.
And anytime another company is coming on board to provide services for your company, some sort of information or assets will be shared. And that can be
Hmm.
risky, right?
Yeah.
So that is when we say a vendor risk analyst, because a vendor is any company that is coming on board to provide services for your company.
Okay.
So for example, let's take the ADP example. So on
Yeah.
a day-to-day basis, they will reach out and say, "Hey, Kwaku, we are trying to bring ADP on board." So my goal is
Yeah.
to find out who is ADP, who is this company, why are they coming on board, what kind of assets, information are we going to be sharing with this vendor, and
Hmm.
if they have the right security controls or measures in place to protect our information. So, in a nutshell, that's all we're doing. We're trying to make sure that every company your company is going to be working with are going to protect any assets or any information you give to them. So
Okay.
that's a simple, strictly practical meaning of third party.
Okay. And I remember when you were talking earlier, you stated that in the third party world, or I guess, yeah, third party, right? Third party field, you guys would normally do about 85%, let's say non-technical stuff, and then the 15% would be a bit, technical. It's 15% would be more a bit technical. So can you talk more about the technical part? So most people on here watching us right now who would want to get into that third party field and do not want to do anything technical would understand that they're not going to be coding, they're not going to be writing Python scripts or whatever to make sure that ADP is good and stuff. So can you dive a lot deeper into that for us?
Yeah. So as I stated, on a regular job day, they'll send you. We want to bring this vendor on board. They bring the vendor on board. They will send you a form, right? And the form is pretty much letting you know all the information that is going to be shared with this vendor, who this vendor is. After that,
Okay.
you will send out a questionnaire to
Okay.
the vendor, right? And the questionnaire is you're trying to find out what security measures the vendor has in place to keep your information secure or your company's information secured. So
Okay.
here is where the technical aspect comes in, because
Okay.
in the questions that you are sending to the vendor, you will be asking about, do you have a VPN, right? So you need to know what a VPN is. You know,
Okay.
do you have a MFA, multi-factor authentication? You need to know what a multi-factor authentication is. So here, as far as the technical goes, is about you just knowing technical terms, and that comes with the questionnaire. This is
Okay.
as technical as it goes,
Okay.
knowing the kind of technical terms they're using on the questionnaire. So when you send
Okay.
these questionnaire to the vendor and they answer it and they bring it back, you know exactly what they're answering to. But if you don't know the terms, then you don't know exactly what they're answering to.
Okay.
So this is as
So
technical as it
mhm,
gets.
got it. And with this, is this something that you guys do? And I'm literally speaking from somebody who knows nothing about third party, right? And
Mhm,
diving a lot deeper into
mhm,
it.
mhm.
So is this something, these questionnaires, is that something you guys send for every single vendor you guys are bringing on board? And you guys do this every single year, every 6 months, every time you guys have to renew with them? Like, how does that process work?
That's a good question. So this is all dependent on the company. Different companies have different ways they go about this. So
Hmm.
certain companies, they will send a modified questionnaire depending on the kind of vendor that is coming on board. So normally when the vendor is coming
Hmm.
on board, what we do is we're going to rate and classify these vendors based on the assets that is being shared with the vendor. So for example, the vendor is
Okay.
coming on board and we are sharing public information with the vendor. I'm just giving an example. This might lead the vendor to
Okay.
be a low risk vendor. So we're going to send a
Okay.
questionnaire that is more modified, probably let's say 50 questions. Now, if we are sharing,
Hmm.
let's say, credit card information, bank account information, SSN, you'll be classified as a T1, a high risk vendor. In this case, we will
Okay.
modify the questionnaire and we'll send you about 200 questions because we want to know all the controls that you have in place to protect these information that we're sharing to you. So one, to back to your question, depending on the vendor, we will decide what questions we will send to the vendor. Two, every year, your department or your team might decide to take a look at the questionnaire because when the IT space is changing, you also want to make sure
Yeah.
that you are also changing your questionnaire to reflect whatever new changes we have. So pretty much that's
Okay.
how the questionnaire works.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So it's something that I guess for every and to dive a lot more into the quote unquote the technical, I don't see that to be technical, but to dive a lot more into, let's say,
Yeah,
quote
yeah,
unquote
yeah.
the technical. Right? So let's say a company like ADP, like you said, right, which is
Mhm.
the, I guess, the payroll. ADP, isn't that a payroll,
Yeah,
folks?
it's a payroll
That
company. Yeah, yeah, it is.
yeah. Yeah. So let's say with ADP, right? And since they'll probably be handling some sort of PIIs, blah, 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 you have to make sure that they are following some rules and regulations. And
Mhm,
the
mhm.
questionnaires that you guys sent to them, is there like a standard questionnaire you guys send out, or do you have to come up with your own questionnaire after you get yourself acquainted with the system called ADP or with the company called ADP?
No, we have, the question is already made for because what our company does is there's industry frameworks, right? There's industry frameworks that is required for you. Most companies will try to somehow comply with. So we know we have an
Okay.
ISO 27001. There's the NIST 853. So what we do is we set our questions reflecting the security controls that these standard frameworks are requiring of us. So for example, we have ISO 27001. That is what my company try to
Yeah.
comply with. So we will create questions
Hmm.
surrounding 27001. And these questions are there
Okay.
regardless of any vendors coming out. So if you're ADP,
Okay.
all we need to know is what kind of services we're going to be having with you, what data we share with you, and we send this questionnaire to you. So the question comes before we onboard you, not after we onboard you. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. I don't know. The network is breaking up a little bit, I think, but I think I can hear you. Can you guys hear him? Let me know if you can hear him. If you can't, let me know because it was breaking up a little bit. Let me know if you can hear him. If not, let me know and we'll work on that. All right. So yeah, so kind of like to give a general summary, umbrella view of everything that you said. So how the third party works. Basically, every single company in America, I would say, unless yeah, even Microsoft, all these big
Majority.
companies, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, majority of them. Yeah. So let's say a company like let's say Walmart, right?
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
Walmart needs a payroll system, they'll go to a third party since they're not a software development company. They'll go to a third party like let's say ADP, right? To
Hmm.
manage your payroll system, show people their time offs and all that stuff, right?
Precisely.
And when they go for ADP and they want to bring ADP on board, that's where you come in. And what you do
Precisely.
as a third party lead manager, blah, 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 all this good stuff is you would literally send questionnaires to ADP to let them know that, hey, how do you guys manage your data? What are some firewalls you guys have in place to make sure that the data that you're getting or the data you be getting, is secure, is good, blah, 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 all those stuff. So that's literally all you do before you onboard them.
Yes. So and of course that's the summary, but of course there's a lot of things that goes in between, right? Between
Mm-hmm.
sending the questionnaire to the vendor, you also ask the vendor for certain artifacts, certain certifications, showing that the vendor
Okay.
takes security very serious. So yes, I just gave you an
Okay.
overall summary, but within these overall summaries, there are steps that are happening. So let me give you a quick summary. So let's say we send a questionnaire to the vendor. Do you have
Mm-hmm.
VPN? Do you have firewall? They answer all these questions, they bring it back to me. Now I would take a look at the questionnaire. If the answers provided are not sufficient, then I'll reach out to the vendor, right? Do a follow up and say, hey, you don't have this control, or you answered that the last time you did a SOC audit was maybe 2 years ago. This is a
Mm-hmm.
security concern. How are you going to address this issue? Then they say, oh, we have this other control in place, that, this, and third. We also have this security measure in place. If they answer back and I feel the answer is sufficient, then great. Now, if the answer is not sufficient, depending on the security concern, sometimes we have to go ahead and have some sort of meeting with my manager or all the parties involved to come to some sort of contract on how we're going to deal with this issue. But I mean, like I said, there's a lot of steps involved, but generally speaking, questions goes out, show me you have good security, and I'll look at these answers. I'll ask for certain security artifacts, take a look at these security artifacts. Now, if everything is fine, we onboard you. If there are security problems, we're going to have a meeting, come up with some sort of contract on who's going to take some sort of responsibility of these security concerns.
Okay. Okay. I totally get it. And like you said, this is kind of like the most practical way you can actually explain it. I bet there are a lot more integrities when it comes into like the process, like you were talking about. Like I hear a lot of people talking about SOC 2 type 2, people talking about this NIST frameworks, blah, 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 all those good stuff, right? Those are,
Yep,
I guess, controls or certifications that you're supposed to have to make sure
exactly.
that they're meeting that security standards that you guys need them to be, security posture that you're supposed to be at to be able
Yep,
to work with them. So if they
precisely.
don't get all these in place, then I'm guessing you guys decide not to work with them. I'm guessing, or they have to fix their stuff.
Well, it depending on what we call the criticality of the vendor, how
Hmm.
important the vendor is to us. So if there's
Hmm.
a vendor we feel that is very important to us, then definitely we are going to let them make sure that they fix these issues before we onboard them, or we're going to onboard them, give them a timeline to fix these issues, or we're going to come up
Okay.
with a contract saying, hey, we're coming up with this contract. If anything happen, you are going to take responsibility for that. Now, when the vendor is a low risk vendor and they don't have certain security artifacts or they don't answer the questions in certain way that we want, we can take a look at it and say, well, this vendor is not that critical and important. So this security, we're going to have this risk acceptance. We will accept this security concerns with no problem because the vendor is of a low risk.
Okay. Okay. And one thing that I mostly talk about when it comes into, let's say, the cybersecurity or the IT umbrella in general is the fact that whenever I always tell people that whenever you want to take a boot camp, right, or whenever you want to get into these, quote unquote, the IT field, and you say, hey, I want to do technical or I don't want to do technical, that type of stuff. I always tell them that one, you have to research, and two, you have to have some fundamentals before you even decide to do any boot camp at all, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I'll give an example. So let's say you want to get into the data analytics field, which is a field that I've been in for a long time. I would need you to literally research on your own. And researching is very easy. You can literally go on Google, type in data analytics. What do they do? Read about it, understand that this is something that I would love to do before even paying that 10,000, 15,000, 5,000, 3,000 that you would pay to get into a boot camp, because at the end of the day, you would be wasting your money. And believe me, like, you would be wasting your money, right? So I always tell people that there are some fundamentals that you are supposed to either have or know before you do any boot camp or before you even decide on coming into the IT field. And I say this because the IT field is ever changing, right? So let's say you use a vendor called, let's say ADP right now, right? Let's say 2 years from now, you realize that, we've been using ADP. Maybe we just saw that Paylocity has this new AI thing that they have with your system. So I think we should go to Paylocity, right?
Precisely.
And then you, as an IT individual, you have to start learning about what Paylocity does. You have to literally keep, learning and learn. It's ever evolving, right? Literally, that's how I see
I
it.
agree. I totally agree.
On your side, in the vendor risk side, what are some fundamentals that you'd say an individual who wants to get into that field should, learn or get themselves acquainted with before they even think of, let's say, joining your boot camp or joining any boot camp at all?
Well, I think one of the things is you being, as far as I think it's cut across the board, right? There's people that have this misconception that when you take a boot camp course, uh, automatically you taking the boot camp course, that means you don't have to do anything. You're done with the
Yeah,
course, boom, you get a job. I think that
yeah.
out of the wind, I'm going to say that. So you need some sort of you willing to do the work. That's number one.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to do the
Okay.
work.
Okay.
Number two, in terms specifically for the vendor space, I'll say one thing you need to do is you need to be somebody who is able to negotiate, right? You need to be able to somebody, because the vendor risk involves, we don't have this security control. How do we solve this problem? The vendor don't have this. So you being somehow creative to come with different ways of solving issues. So a problem solver, right? Because when you are facing a vendor who has a security issue, you just don't say, oh, you have this issue, so game over. We're not going to deal with you, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of vendor space, one, you got to put in the work, especially if you are not coming from a vendor space, to learn more about the vendor space. Two, you being a problem solver, coming with many ways to deal with issues of vendors. And lastly, I also saying that negotiation. You need to be somebody
Yes.
who is able to negotiate your way through um, when it comes to remediation meetings. Yeah, so these are the three basic things I will argue. It's the vendor. I personally believe that because I took an RMF boot camp, and I tried to also
Yeah.
go the technical aspect. Somebody like me, I'm a bookworm. I like, and
Yeah.
and I yeah, and I think vendor space is the easiest. I think it's very easy to do as long as you put your mind to it. There's nothing technical. You're not about to do coding. All you need to know is certain couple of terms that we will probably classify as technical in vendor risk. Then that's
Okay.
it. The rest is you knowing what your company needs, because it's like my company wants this from you, the vendor. That's all it is. They give you what we want from you. You don't have this. Now, how do we negotiate? That is
Okay.
vendor risk. That's all it is.
Okay.
That's all it
And
is.
with that said, what are some challenges that you guys face in that field, like that vendor risk field? Because I know every IT sector or every IT industry, field career that you decide to go with has some challenges, right? So, what are some challenges that you guys face in the vendor risk field?
I think the common challenge in facing in vendor risk is that uh, as much as we try to have control, some sort of control of what our vendors are doing,
Hmm.
sometimes you wouldn't know. You can do all the assessment that you choose to.
Hmm.
Then maybe a year from when you did assessment, the vendor choose to not keep up with those security hygiene practices. You don't have control over that, even though you did assessment, right? So a vendor, let's say let's use ADP. ADP is coming on board today. We
Mhm.
checked everything, everything is fine. But I don't know from 3 months now whether they're going to keep on with the same practices that I just checked.
Got
There's
it.
no
Got it.
clue.
Got it.
You see what I'm saying? I checked you now, you were
Okay.
doing great. But 3 months from now, I don't know whether you're going to keep up with the same practices. So that's one of the things that sometimes, it keeps us at night. Number two is also that um, in terms of our remediation, you always
Mhm.
want to make sure that you are somehow coming up, right?
Okay.
Because if you are going and having some sort of negotiation with the vendor in terms about they need to fix their issue because we need to bring them on board quickly, you want to make sure that if that issue or that risk that you discovered, if it's exploited, you come on up. And
Mhm.
this time keep go back and forth, back and it can even sometimes even take a month. You propose this, the vendor proposed that. You have to include a legal team. The legal team will call you, and this negotiation stuff sometimes go for a month. And
Okay.
lastly, another thing I would say is that um, getting assessments done sometimes can drag. You send a questionnaire to a vendor to fill out, and it will probably take about 3 months to fill out the
Hmm.
questionnaire because and you keep sending them, hey, and they'll tell you, oh, we don't have that person to fill out. The person is out. Then you keep going back and forth with the vendor, back and forth. And so at one assessment on a vendor
Mhm.
can prolong that long. So I
Okay.
think these are the common challenges that normally we face in the vendor space. Oh, lastly is collecting security artifact. Because
Okay.
sometimes we may ask the vendor to provide us with some sort of security certificate or a security report that an auditor did in your environment, and they'll be
Mhm.
reluctant. They're like, hey, we don't want to share this document because we believe it's sensitive to us. But you want to look at that document to make sure that they have the right controls or the right security measures in place. And sometimes they don't want to share
Okay.
these things. So you have to do a video call and all that in nature. But these are some of the challenges that we face day in, day out in our environment.
Okay. And I think with that, and I really appreciate that. It looks like you've gone over literally everything you guys do. And most of the time, when people talk about, I want to get into IT, I want to get into, and I think this one became really predominant during 2019, during the COVID era, right? When 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, literally you see a lot of people, swamping into the IT industry. I want to get into IT.
Mhm,
I've
mhm,
heard that
mhm.
I can do non-technical stuff, the RMF, the third party, blah, 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 all those stuff. And the number one thing that I hear a lot of people talking about when it comes to this sector is the money. Like literally, like every everybody that I talk to that wants to get into IT is because, hey, now I'm making about $50,000. I heard, okay, that's number one thing. I heard that if I do RMF or third party, I'll be making six figures. I heard that one of my friends who is in the IT industry in the RMF said, I can do RMF, I can do third party. It's easy. I can get in, blah, 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 all those stuff. Good. I love it. Right. Making the money is not the issue. Right. But now let's talk about it. Let's address the elephant in the room. Okay. So with the third party, right, with the third party field, with the current
Mhm,
market and with the current economy, how we see everything, with the third party field, I'm not sure if it's just me, but from the little research that I did,
mhm.
I feel as though companies tend to, I'm not sure if I'm right, if I'm wrong, let me know, right? But
Yeah, sure, sure.
most companies will probably hire a contractor for a third party role. And once they're done doing the assessment, they let them go. Am I right or wrong?
Well, you are right in certain sense because there are studies that are showing that in both, so there's truth to what you are saying that
Mhm.
companies tend to this was happening like 3 years ago. Most companies was
Okay.
contracting, but as we
Mhm.
now take a look at um, the numbers, what is going on in the third party race, we found out that about 60% of breaches come from third party. So
Okay.
companies are using this information to make decisions. So what we see, that a lot of companies now want a third party risk analyst part of their company. But here is
Okay.
the catch. They want a third party risk analyst, but they don't want you to do only third party. Rather,
Okay.
they're looking for somebody who probably can do GRC in
Mhm.
addition to the third party. So
Okay.
you just
Wow.
exactly. So they want a third party risk analyst on board, but they
Hmm.
want, because think about it. If I just hire a third, why would I hire just a third party risk analyst when I
Yeah.
can have a third party risk analyst who does both GRC and third party? That's killing two
Hmm.
birds with one stone,
Yeah.
right? Because like I said,
Okay.
third party is fairly easy. It's just easy.
Yeah.
We just do risk, and sometimes I'm just there not doing anything for
Yeah.
weeks. So I'm saying, so the
Yeah.
company is like, yo, we can use you for somewhere else. Unless the company knows that they have a lot of vendors, it's a big company, then they'll probably just focus on strictly on third party. So
Okay.
what you said is true. Previously, most companies want to do a contract, but now
Hmm.
companies are looking for a third party risk analyst on board, but not strictly
Okay.
for just third party, but they want somebody who also, in addition to third party, they have some sort of knowledge of GRC,
Okay.
which is
So
government risk and compliance.
yeah. So rather than them hiring you, and I've seen that a lot too, even in yeah, since I'll classify the third party sector of things in the under the umbrella of cybersecurity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So say in my field, in the cybersecurity analytics field or cybersecurity analyst field, it's more so normally they would hire you to do, let's say, SOC stuff where you're using tools like Splunk, Dynatrace, all those stuff to detect all these intrusions that are coming in, and you try to
Mhm.
like mitigate it, blah blah blah, all those stuff. But now they need somebody who is a cybersecurity engineer and also somebody who's a
Yep,
cybersecurity analyst
yep,
together,
yep,
where you can actually build firewalls and
yep.
still do the monitoring stuff, which is something that I see a lot now. But in the third party field, right? Give me a range. I don't want to have an actual
Oh yeah,
number,
yeah, sure, sure.
but give me a range. If somebody is to come into the third party field, all the people that are watching us right now, say they decide to come into the third party vendor risk field, right? Give me a range. How much can they be making if, and I always say this a lot, if they're disciplined enough to take the classes serious, steady seriously, let's say for 3 4 months, rigorously study, and they get a job, how much are they looking to make? Like a range, literally, in the third party field.
So I'll speak into let me give 2 points. The first
Okay.
point is I'll speak from an entry level, right?
Okay.
So let's say you are doing what you need to be doing, right? So
Okay.
I believe there are three types of students: those that are not doing anything, they think it needs to happen, and those that
Yeah.
are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and those that are doing
Mhm.
above what they're supposed to be doing. If
Yep.
you think that you are the first student where you just finish the boot camp course and it's going to happen, no, forget it. You're not even going to get a job. Now, those that are doing what they are supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
you can range the range count from between anywhere between 95 to 135, right, for third party. So that is the range for third party, $95,000 to 135.
So
Now,
90.
it,
Uh-huh. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So now, if you are in the above what I'm supposed to be doing, like I took it serious.
Hmm.
Anywhere between, and like I said, I went strictly from no role to a senior third party management risk role. So that is
Yeah.
a lead role, and that's because I took it seriously. So
Yeah.
that you are looking anywhere between 135 to 160, and sometimes these may even include um, bonuses or just give and take. Because think about this: when you go to interview,
Hmm.
it's the knowledge and the conversation you are having with the person that dictates if you are that important. That's all the interview is. I'm coming to interview to show you I can do this job. Now, Albie goes to interview. You go in there, you sell yourself. This is the knowledge, this expertise you have. I go in there, I sell myself as well. So the knowledge that you are bringing is what's going to determine should we give you this money or not. And the only knowledge is you going above and beyond and studying the stuff. But yeah, so this is 95 to 130. If you're entry level, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you can land between that. Now, if you're going above and beyond, you can be in 135 to 160. Easy.
So some and I'm not laughing because this is not possible. I
Yeah.
mean, I've been there. I don't do third party. To me, honestly, I feel that third party is boring. Maybe because I like
Ah.
to do the technical stuff.
I don't blame you. Hey.
I, I feel like it's boring because I like to do the technical stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what he is saying, it's true. 95 to 130. Let's say if you take the class very seriously or disciplined enough, you're going above and beyond, you're asking questions, right, to get an understanding. I feel as though, right, people, they take these classes and then let's say if you're teaching, right, they will listen to you teach, and at the end of the day, they'll look at them, I didn't even understand what he was saying. Why didn't you ask
Yep.
the question during
Yep.
the
Yep.
class?
Yep.
Right? You know,
Yep.
I like to ask
Yep.
questions. So ask questions, understand every ingredient because you've paid for it, right?
You,
So
I'm
understand and ask
saying.
questions.
I,
Yeah.
I, I, I I
And
totally agree.
yeah. So what you can literally be making 130,000 dollars, or let's say 110,000. That's what I've seen a lot of companies do. Whenever you're making six figures, they'll start you off at 110,000. I don't know why that even number
110 or
works for them.
115 tend to be their
Yeah, like
starting mark.
they're always stuck on that side. But you can literally be making $115,000, $120,000, $110,000. We're in November, so by next year, March, if you are serious, you could literally be making that amount of money.
Yeah,
Okay,
you can.
now let's talk about the job. I know you do the boot camps, right? Now let's
Yeah.
talk about the job market. How do you see the job market right now for third party vendor risk analysts? Like literally, like in the current economy, in the current market right now. Do you think the market is good for people to delve in that industry or in that field, or do you think they should probably look somewhere else?
I think the market is good. Number one. But
Okay.
number two, we shouldn't conflate the market is good with competition. So I see a lot of people saying, "Hey, I'm not getting call back. The market is not good." No, because there are people on the market. It's getting such. Everybody know that third party is easy and like easy to do. So just
Hmm.
like you want to get in, the average person want to get in. I remember I had a friend of
Okay.
mine. I tried to tell him to get into third party when I was getting into. Now he's trying to get in. I think previous years he was getting called back when he put in an interview and he was not taking the interview serious. Now he put in applications, not even hearing anything back. And I told him because people are putting applications. So the job is there. It's just that for one job, you have about 200 or 300 applications. So I'm
Wow.
saying, yeah. So I
Wow.
mean, if you go online, you see people are posting the job. The job market is there. It's just that the competition. So sometimes people confuse the competition with the job market. So the job market
Yeah.
is there. Yep.
Wow. 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 That's some great information. All right. Now let's talk about your boot camp, right? How long does your boot camp run for? And I always talk about the fact that most of these boot camps that I see online, and guys, literally, this is me saying my truth. Excuse my French, no BS. But most of these boot camps that people pay for, I am that type of individual that if I'm going to pay for a boot camp and you're literally going to tell me the surface area of every single thing, say, like I'll say, like in the cybersecurity field or in the data analytics field, right? If I'm in that area or if I want to get into that sector or in that field and I try to take a boot camp with you and you just give me the surface area of data analytics or cybersecurity, I'm not going to take it. And I say this because most of these guys who organize these boot camps are in for the money. They do not care about the folks.
I totally percent agree.
Like they do not literally. I had somebody text me and say that, hey, I just finished the boot camp. I have an interview coming up. The guy told me that they would be doing interview prep. And then I'm done. I'm trying to call him that I have an interview next week,
He's not picking
and
up.
he's not answering. And he blocked the lady. He
Mm,
blocked the lady, saying that the lady is bothering him. He told her to wait, blah blah blah, all those jazz, right? So, what is it about your boot camp that would make yours stand out from any other individual that's probably doing these third party vendor risk stuff?
I think one thing that I focus on, and I even I think I had one student who said I even because the thing the student had taken a risk management course before, and he does believe that I do sometimes even somehow trying to babysit my student. What is you might because I'm always following my students up. I'm always,
Mhm.
hey, Romeo, when was the last time you did this? How's your
Yeah.
application going? I'm checking up on them. But what happened is that it reached a point I even stopped teaching
Hmm.
because I had to focus on the previous student and make sure that majority of them have got job before I want to do a new course. So
Okay.
the goal here is not just to make sure that you are getting some money because if it was the money, I'll just give me a third party job because the two jobs
Yeah.
I'm doing right now, I still don't feel it. See what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's more about somebody's gonna go stand somewhere and say, "Oh, this person was the one who taught me, and I was able to get into third party, or my life changed from being in this bracket to that bracket." So I think
Yeah.
that's what drives me in doing these classes, is to see more students get job. And when a student get a job, I'm truly satisfied. Because if it was the money, I'll just give me a third job, and that's
Gotcha.
it. Because the
Gotcha.
two jobs that I have, I'm not feeling. And another thing that we do that I think is unique about my boot camp is that all year round, bi-weekly, we do what we call the Sunday sessions. So the
Okay.
Sunday sessions is where we are going through people that are going through interviews. They go to their interviews, they record it, so we can go over it. What did they do good? What could have done better?
Hmm.
If it was you, how would you have approached this? Then also I'll go ahead and give my insights to this. So this is going on year round. And next year, I'm thinking about getting demos for some of these GRC tools. I'm trying to go more on a practical aspect than
Hmm.
more on the theoretical aspect for the class,
Yeah.
so that these students can focus more on doing the job.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So I have a question here. So let me put up the question. It's Abby and Angie said companies are coming up with different GRC tools, and we must familiarize ourselves with. How do we go about to answer this question when you don't know the tool? Recently, I was denied with a job. So she got denied from a job because she didn't. And Angie, and I'm trying to answer your question, and I think Kuku also chime in as well. But then one thing that I always say, and I said this in the beginning of the conversation, was the fact that you, as an IT individual, somebody that wants to get into the IT field, right? You have to continuously learn. It's literally when you join the IT industry, it's continuous education. Like it keeps going on. And I keep telling people that if you're in the IT industry, technical or non-technical, you should be able to study at least 3 hours a week, at least. Because, like you said, companies are coming out with new tools every single day. Like, and I think when the companies come up with these new tools, that's when the third party folks come in because they come with a new GRC tool. They need somebody to make sure that the security and everything is good. So they come in. See, it fits in. I'm getting it. I should
It's all
actually come up
fit
with
in. It's all together somehow, some way.
it's fitting in. So, Angie, my thing that I would say is when you were applying for the job, did you see on the job description the tool that they were using? Most companies will probably not put on the job description, but I'm guessing you probably went through the recruiter stage where you spoke to the recruiter and then they schedule that interview for you where you meet. I'm not sure if it's a panel or whatever, but did they literally put it on the job description that hey, you're using this GRC tool or that GRC tool? Am I right, Kuku?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
oh,
I
mhm,
totally
go ahead.
agree. I think this is what I call an interview question and approach question. So the first
Yeah.
thing is what you just said. The first thing is when you are applying to a job, you must know the job duties, the JD they have posted under the job. You asking
Exactly.
yourself, do you know these tools that they are using? If you don't know, you try
Hmm.
to go online and do your own research, whether you can come up with the tool that the company is using. Now,
Okay.
if you do that and you come up empty, then Abby, your next thing is what you want to do is you work on adaptability. So this is what I do. So for example, if I go to an interview and they just give me a tool and they say they use, let's say ServiceNow, we use
Hmm.
ServiceNow or OneTrust. What I'll do
Hmm.
is I will say I'm familiarized with OneTrust. I've not really worked with OneTrust, but I know other
Hmm.
companies that they use with. But you talk
Yeah.
about other tools that your company have used. So you talk about using Prevalent, you talk about Fusion. Here, what you are trying to establish is that you are easy to adapt to tools and you
Yeah.
know about OneTrust. You haven't worked with OneTrust, but you know about it. Maybe you know a friend who uses OneTrust or whatever. So it won't be difficult for you to adapt to this new tool. So what you're going to do is you're going to create
Yeah.
a premise where you are saying that, yes, I've used a couple of tools before and it was easy for me to
Hmm.
adapt. Now, this tool is not going to be hard for me to adapt either. And normally, these tools are not really far from each other. I don't know what kind of space you are trying to go in, whether it's a GRC space or third party, but the third party flow is going to be the same around all these tools. So there shouldn't be a big issue there. So these are the two ways I'll go. First,
Yeah.
do your research on the JD, and know what tool they're using. If you come out empty, now you want to go to the interview talking about other tools that you've used and how easy it was for you to somehow adapt to those tools. And it shouldn't be hard for you to adapt to the tool the company uses.
Got it, got it. And I think one thing too that she said because the company use our programming language. All right, let me come in there, right? Since
Yeah,
I've been in
that's
the
not
data
me.
analytics, right?
Yeah, that's on my side.
Since I've been in the data analytics field, right? You know, when it comes to these statistical tools like R, SQL, blah blah blah, all those stuff, right? Or SAS, all that stuff, right? What I would recommend, Andy, and sorry, Abby, what I would recommend is normally before I even go for an interview and I read the JD, because they have to put it on there. If they do not put it on there and I go for the interview and they are talking about it, what I use to trick them is, or I would not say trick them, but what technically trick them is what Kuku said that, hey, yes, I've heard about R. I know it's a statistical tool, but I've not really delved a lot deeper into it. You know, but I mean, it's something that if I could use SQL, then I can use R. If I could use SAS, then I could probably use R because the syntax might probably be the same, right? Now, if let's say they put it on the JD, the job description, and it's something that they're really adamant about, you're supposed to know. What I would normally do is I would go on either YouTube, and there are vast resources on YouTube. I would literally go on YouTube, type in R programming use cases, right? I'll type in R programming use cases. And what that does for me is it would literally bring up a video that somebody probably did or somebody who's teaching R, right? And when they're doing it, you can't use R unless you have a use case, right? So let's say they want to find A, B, C, and D, use R, use a syntax, you print it out, blah, 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 all those good stuff. I would learn that. And during the interview, I'll tell them, hey, yes, I've worked with R, not a lot, but then the last time that I worked with it, I did A, B, C, and D. And literally, you're trying to remember what you watched from the YouTube video. But then it's something that I can really get myself into if that's something you guys really use a lot in the company. So at that point in time, you've not shot yourself in the foot because they're not going to ask you a lot more questions, but you've let them know that, hey, you've had some sort of experience using R, but then you've not really delved a lot deeper into it. I don't know if that makes sense or if that answers your question. If it does, let me know. But yeah, Cuckoo, last question for you before I let you go. I know I've taken most of your time, but
no problem.
Last question, do you have a class in session or do you have another class coming up? Like, are you taking like a Christmas break type of thing?
Right now I'm currently on a break, but I'm working on next year
Okay.
approach. And right now I'm in between taking a look at my old students, see
Mm-hmm.
how they are doing, and based on that, I'll decide whether I'll do my next class or not. Like I said, I don't feel right when I'm doing these classes and my students or previous classes did not getting jobs. Then what's the
Got it.
point? So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking maybe by February I'll come up and next class will come up. And I don't know whether this class will focus on the old students, because what I do sometimes is if my old students haven't got a job, I also do a class again that strictly focus on the old students, but I make some seats available for new students, but not much. But majority of the seats is going to be for the old student to give, keep
Got it.
them refreshed. Exactly. So next class should be
Got
coming up somewhere in February.
it. Okay.
Definitely.
Got it. Perfect. And I'm not going to talk about anything about pricing or anything of that sort. So if they can contact you, or if anybody's on there that wants to, take any of those classes or call you to learn more about that third-party vendor risk analyst roles and how it works, blah, 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 all those stuff, much more deeper than what we've spoken about here. I'm not sure if you have a number that you can put out there that they can contact you on, but yeah, you can let them know.
Yeah. You can contact me on 757 286 1477 757 286 1477. So that's my
All right,
number.
perfect.
Anytime. Yep.
All right, perfect. So those of you watching us right now that said that, hey, Albert, I want to get into the IT field or the cybersecurity field, but I do not want to do anything technical. I did promise that I was going to bring a good friend on here who's going to talk about some of the non-technical stuff or non-technical roles that you can actually take up in the IT field or in the cybersecurity under the cybersecurity umbrella. And I'm going to keep doing this to help you guys out there who actually want get into the IT industry, because there's a lot of factors that goes into this, right? And I keep saying in 2019, 2020, 2021, and earlier parts of 2022, if you are not able to get into if you're not able to get into the IT industry, now it becomes a bit difficult. And not to say that it's difficult, you can't get in. Not to say that you can't get in, but now you have to stand out. And you standing out meaning you are literally pulling all-nighters. You are literally working extra hard. You are literally trying to know the field in and out. Because I would say that you are competing with somebody who got laid off from Facebook. You're competing with somebody who got laid off from these Fortune 500 companies. These guys you're competing with, they built Facebook. These guys you're competing with, they build Google Drive, they build Dropbox, all these stuff, right? So they have a wealth of knowledge. So you have to stand out. And most of the time, these recruiters or these hiring managers, they know that you have the experience. Some of these tools or these experiences, you can learn them on the job, right? But they want you to stand out. And you stand it out, meaning you are putting in a lot more work to get more projects on your hands, to understand the work, and then you put in your creativity to it as well. So if you do want to go the third party way, please, Kuku did put out his number out there. Please, please, please reach out to him. And then he will go a lot more deeper into it. And the next slides that he's going to be having, I'm not going to waste more of his time because I get, one or two more pointers that I have to talk about today before I let you guys go. But Kuku, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for joining. Thank you so much. He will probably come back on here again. But if you see him out there, tell him he is the DMV richest man. Thank you, brother.
All right, thank you, Albie. I appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Soon.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
All right, guys. So thank you so much. So that was Kuku on there. He was talking about the third party stuff, how to get into the third party, how everything works with a third party vendor risk side of things. But all right. So now there's a couple of things that I want to talk about when it comes with you guys, right? There's a couple of things that I want to talk to when it comes to you guys. A lot of you will text me or a lot of you will call me and say, hey, Albert, I want to get into the IT industry. I totally get it, right? A lot of people want to do that. A lot of people want to get into that umbrella. But like I said, when I was talking to my friend here, Kuku, you have to have some fundamentals. And I'm not going to lie about it. I would rather tell you the truth now than lie to you. And at the end of the day, you tell me I lied to you, right? I'm telling you the truth. You need some fundamentals, and you getting that fundamentals is very, very important. Like Kuku was saying that when you get in the third-party field, you have to at least have some fundamental of how that third-party application they are bringing on board works. Because if you do not understand that, or if you do not try to familiarize yourself with it, it will be a bit difficult for you. You would not know the questions you ask, how to go about it, blah, 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 all those good stuff. You have to understand those stuff. If not, it becomes difficult. If you want to go the technical route, right, which I think most people refuse to do, I don't know why, but technical part, let me use myself as an example. Most of the stuff that I do in my technical fields, it's already written down. It's a step-by-step process that you follow, right? So let's say, I'll give you an example. Last week, I was trying to install what we call Sysmon. Sysmon is a monitoring tool that we use on these Windows computers, right? And when I was trying to deploy Sysmon through our system or our enterprise called Microsoft Desktop Central, it was not working, so I had to manually do it. And I had never done it manually before, so I had to learn how to do it manually. I go on Google and I type in, how do I manually install Sysmon on endpoints or on computers? And then whatever situation that I was facing there, somebody had faced it already. So all I had to do is research on it, pull it up, and then follow that step-by-step process that I saw. And that was it. So I'm not programming. I'm not doing any C++. I'm not doing any sort of Python. I'm not doing any of those stuff. I'm not doing any of those stuff, right? All I am doing is making sure that if I'm having any questions or queries, I go on Google, type it in, and Google will give me that answer. You can do it. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not going to be easy, but you can do it. Even with the third party that Kuku is talking about, right? That my friend was talking about. Yes, he's talking about the fact that it's the easiest field that you could get into. Yes, to him. He's been in there for a minute. So yes, and he was very serious about getting into that field. So it was very easy for him. But you have to be ready to put in the work. If you're not ready to put in the work, guys, it's not going to work out. And one thing that I'm going to leave you guys with today is the fact that before you pay $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for any boot camp whatsoever, for any boot camp, be it data analytics, application security, cloud security, which involves AWS, Azure, Jenkins, all those stuff, you have to do your research. I cannot stress that enough. You have to do your research. If you do not do your research, you would be wasting your money. You have to do your research and know for yourself that, hey, this field that I'm getting into, this is a field that I know very well that I actually love and would want to actually get into, right? Because you hear a lot of people talking about how, oh, I'm in the RM field right now, I'm in the third-party field right now, I'm in the cybersecurity analyst field, and they tell these folks, and then they get very clouded with their judgments, and they're like, oh, I want to get into the cybersecurity field, and somebody told me that I should do RMF or I should do third-party. Somebody telling you does not work. After they tell you that, you should research on your own to see if this is something you really want to do. Because they'll tell you all these good stuff about how they're making this 6 figures, how they've built this house, how they've bought this car, how they've done all these stuff. But if you do not research and know for yourself that I can do it, it becomes difficult. Because most of these guys that organize these boot camps, like I keep saying, are in for the money. They don't really care about you. They're in for the money. That's why they will charge you $5,000. And some of them will be like, hey, you pay $2,500 at the beginning and you pay the rest at the end of the class, or after 2 weeks of the class, you pay the rest. Because after they take that money, believe you me, I know a lot of you probably have testimonies on here stating that they don't really contact you again. Or if you ask them a question, they try to not respond to your questions. So, like I said, if this is something that you really want to do, which is get into the IT field or the under the IT umbrella, you should be willing to study. If you're not willing to study, this career field is not going to work for you. If you're really, really, really not willing to study and better yourself every single time with new tools coming up, this career field is not for you. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be very honest with you, because every single day you're going to be learning new stuff every single time. If you're not ready to learn, it's not for you. I would prefer you stay in the field that you're in and not do IT, because if you do it, you literally have to be studying. And if you're not ready to study and ready to go above and beyond to make sure that you're getting yourself acquainted with new tools that are coming up, then stop. It's not going to work. And it's not magic. It's not magic. You have to put in the work for it to work. All right. And the last thing that I'm going to leave you guys with is the fact that whether it is technical or not, you have to know some technicalities. Whether whatever you're doing is technical or not, you have to know your technicalities. And the last thing, this part is very important to me, so I need everybody to pay attention. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is certifications. God, I cannot stress enough. Certifications. Most of these guys out there will tell you, cybersecurity, quote unquote. Most of these guys will tell you that, hey, take CISA, which is a Certified Information Security Auditor. Take CISM, Certified Information Security Manager. Take Security Plus. Take all this. No. Do not do it. And let me tell you the reason why I'm saying that. If you're an individual out there and you want to get into the IT field and you do not have that fundamental, you can get as many certifications as you want. Once you get the job and you don't know the job, they will fire you. And I'm not even sugarcoating anything. You can take CISA, CISM, PMP, Security Plus, Network Plus, whatever the case is. If you do not put your heads down to really study and you get these jobs, you will be fired. I'm not sugarcoating. And like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat. I'm going to be very honest with you guys. Once they tell you to get those certifications, I'm not saying they're bad. Their certifications will do as much as getting you in front of a recruiter. So a recruiter calls you, tells you, hey, can you tell me about yourself? That jazz, that good stuff. That's what the certification will does, because most of these companies need that. If you want to go into GovTech, which is government side of things, yes, they will require you to have a Security Plus, that type of stuff. But all you would do if you have their certification is to get an interview. But then if you're not serious, if you're not studying, if you're not doing what you have to do, somebody would get a CISA certification and you would literally ask them simple questions when it comes to IT audit, and they do not even know. It's the honest truth. Someone will get the CISM certification and they go out there and you ask them questions during interviews, and they literally don't know what you were talking about. Guys, it is not a walk in the park. If you're not ready to put your heads down and be disciplined enough to study, you're not going to make it. If you're not disciplined enough to study or to really know this stuff in and out, it's not going to work out. And it's not magic. Like literally, it's not magic. You have to put in the work. And I totally get the fact that there are some folks out there who cannot study by themselves. There are some folks out there who need to have some sort of timing, right? They need some sort of structure where Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, 7 to 9 p.m., they know that they're actually, studying, they're taking a boot camp, they're studying, which is totally fine. I, on the other hand, I came out knowing that if I want to get into another field, or if I want to get into a particular field, I have to do the research on my own and study on my own, because I don't have that $5,000 to put out there. I don't have these $6,000 to waste out there. No, I would rather study on my own. But like I said, everybody is different. Most people out there would rather, have that structure where you're doing Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and they keep going on from there, which is totally understandable. But before you actually go put your $5,000 in the hands of somebody else, please and please try as much as possible to study, try as much as possible to gain some research, some fundamentals before you jump into any of those stuff. Because if you do not do that, believe you me, it's not gonna work out. Most people will probably say, I'm not God. Yes, I'm not, but it's not going to work out. It's either black or white. I do hope that I gave you some great gems today, guys. I will see you guys on Wednesday. I have another video coming out on Wednesday, and I have a couple more people to interview in the project management, products management, server management, all that stuff. I have a lot of friends with a wealth of knowledge who have been in the industry for a bit. So I'm going to interview all of them, and then you guys will gain some insight from every single individual that comes on here and speaks to me. So till I see you again very soon, stay blessed, be blessed, and God bless. Peace.